Another big story to tell you about this morning. Joe Biden now responding to those allegations of inappropriate behavior after a former Nevada politician, Lucy Flores, says Biden placed his hands on her shoulders, then kissed the back of her head during a campaign rally back in 2014. The two were not close at the time. Flores saying she felt violated by the contact, but not sexually assaulted.
I don't believe that it was a bad intention. I'm not in any way suggesting that I felt sexually assaulted or sexually harassed. I felt invaded. I felt that there was a violation of my personal space.
Peter Ducey is live in Washington, D.C. with more. So, Peter, has Joe Biden apologized?
No, but he is now trying to explain, Julie, that physical contact is just part of his style, with a written statement that says, in part, in my many years on the campaign trail and in public life, I have offered countless handshakes, hugs, expressions of affection, support, and comfort. And not once, never, did I believe I acted inappropriately. If it is suggested I did so, I will listen respectfully, but it has never been my intention. And Biden is getting some backup now from another woman who says that she appreciated the time he reached out and touched her. Stephanie Carter, wife of former Defense Secretary Ash Carter, who writes now that her story is different than Lucy Flores, and that, quote, let me state up front that I don't know her, but I absolutely support her right to speak her truth, and she should be like all women believed. But her story is not mine. That Joe Biden in my picture is a close friend, helping someone get through a big day for which I will always be grateful. And so far, we have not seen or heard from Joe Biden about this. But remember, he is not officially, technically, a candidate for president yet. Julie.
How are other candidates, Peter, digesting all these allegations against Biden?
Based on what they know and what they have heard from Lucy Flores, they're taking her side.
I read the op-ed last night, I believe, Lucy Flores, and Joe Biden needs to give an answer.
Should he not run as a result?
Look, that's for Joe Biden to decide. That is their decision about whether or not to run, and it will be up to Democratic voters whether or not to support someone.
I have no reason not to believe Lucy, and I think what this speaks to is the need to fundamentally change the culture of this country.
Many of the Democratic presidential hopefuls are going to be here in Washington, D.C. for the We the People Summit throughout the course of today, so we do expect to get a lot more reaction to Biden today. Julie.
All right, we look forward to it. Peter Ducey, thank you.
Got a lot to go through now. Byron York, chief political correspondent of the Washington Examiner, joins me now. And Byron, good morning to you.
Good morning, Bill.
On the Biden matter, how do you see this developing?
Well, he's going to have to address it in some way. I mean, so far, the former vice president, has said he had never had any intention to make anyone uncomfortable, any of that. That's perfectly fine for a non-candidate, but if he is going to enter the race, he's going to have to address this. He's going to have to actually take questions about this, because as you saw, his fellow candidates are not going to cut him any slack. They're going to say they believe Lucy Flores, and it's up to the former vice president to explain himself. So that's got to be the next step in this.
Here is the NBC Wall Street Journal polling on this is pre-weekend story now, Byron. Joe Biden was at 70%, and Bernie Sanders was just below him at 60%. He's a clear front runner.
Absolutely, but he's not in the race yet. I think everybody would say that Joe Biden, once he gets in the race, will probably begin to go down in those polls. It's just what always happens. People look at the person who's not undergoing the scrutiny of a political campaign. They say he looks great. And when he's in the scrutiny, when he's scrapping with everybody else in the field, then his numbers go down. So I think that's kind of an artificial number, because you have these other candidates who are out and about, who are talking, who are taking positions, who are, participating in town halls, all of that kind of stuff. You've got that going on, and Joe Biden is just staying off to the side, being Uncle Joe.
This was the talk on the Sunday shows as well. Here's Kellyanne Conway with Chris Wallace on Fox News Sunday.
I think Joe Biden has a big problem here because he calls it affection and handshakes. His party calls it completely inappropriate.
So I would imagine, Byron, you're going to get a lot more reaction on this, and depending how Biden responds to it, as you appropriately point out there, it will dictate a lot. Lucy Flores was on CNN over the weekend, and she was asked about her support for Bernie Sanders in 2016. And the question was given to her in a sense that some people will see this as political motivation. And she responded to that in a rather clear way. She has given this great thought, Byron. No clip. Go ahead.
Oh, well, look, the reason, of course, it's all political. I mean, we're in a political campaign. But the reason this is a big deal, we should remember, is this is not the first example we've seen of Joe Biden touching women a lot in public. Actually, the Lucy Flores situation was interesting because it was off camera. Some of these other incidents have been on camera, and you saw the Stephanie Carter, the wife of Ashton Carter, say that what happened was okay with her. But we've had other pictures of Biden touching women, perhaps inappropriately. So if this were one single incident with Lucy Flores that nobody else saw, it would be one thing. But in fact, it fits into a pattern of what the world has observed, and maybe it's just Joe Biden's affectionate, touchy, physical style, and maybe it's something that Democrats are going to judge as inappropriate for one of their candidates.
Good to have you on today. Thanks, Byron. New York, more
Thank you,
analysis
Bill.
on this forthcoming. Thank you very much. Here's Julie now with more.